I am Andrew Maury, aka Rantum Bits here. As it says, I'm going to be talking about data, finance, and art today. So specifically, when we're talking about the money flow of NFT art collecting, and there was a comment in the last panel there that was about how collectors are moving on from PFPs, moving on to edition work, and I'm going to talk a bit about that concept and even look at the categories of generative art and one-of-one art in addition. So while my day job is actually in the DeFi world now, I work as a data scientist at Xerox Labs. I previously worked on data for art blocks, bright moments, and a NFT liquidity protocol. Still spend a lot of my free time around NFTs and delving into NFT data. So while this is the art stage, I've got plenty of data lined up in the slides ahead. So here is a bit about the idea that I'm going to be talking about. And if you're familiar with NFT Twitter, you may know Soup Yum. He has talked about this idea a bit, and I've got his diagram down in the lower right here. I've expanded upon this a little bit more, adding in the art additions, specifically looking at known origin, Nifty Gateway, and Manifold there. As you may realize, it's a little, there's obviously some crossover among these platforms. They aren't always specifically a one type of art. There's certainly things that could cross over between the two. So I'm now going to get into let's see, it's a GIF that will show the growth of the NFT market from June 2017 up until this past month, and this is going to look at buyers and the platforms that they're at. So at the beginning, we saw that it was a PFP collection that really brought people in, and it was a very small number. It was just CryptoPunks, really, and that's where people were trading. So there were some months, and then we started seeing OpenSea come in. Now, these weren't CryptoPunks then because they were a different type of token. They weren't actually traded on OpenSea. So we started seeing OpenSea really grow, and then we started seeing some art platforms come in. You can barely see them here, but there's known origin and super rare starting to come into play. And as you know, the marketplace the platforms have really just continued to grow, and we start seeing this. And I apologize for not actually getting I think I cut off the dates on here, unfortunately. But as we see, it just continues to grow and grow. And while it can be difficult, as I said, to classify each type of art, I have attempted to pull out PFP and collectibles as the first category. As I said, started with CryptoPunks, and that really did get people in there. It was part of a collection, 10,000, as set the model for what most PFP collections have gone on to do. One thing that we see here is this is the top 25 PFP collections by volume, and what you can see in the top right chart is that most of the collections have minted some time ago. Really, the only collection that of note that is still minting currently, that's one of the top 25 collections, is the Nouns project that is ongoing. There's a new auction every day. But outside that, and obviously there's some debate of whether that's a PFP or art, and I think there's a lot of crossover there. Certainly not going to judge necessarily, but that is still going on. Otherwise, you can see that maybe the market has gotten a little tired of just another animal PFP collection. So we've seen as I mentioned, we saw known origin and super rare. They were some of the early art platforms. Known origin is now owned by eBay. Super rare is still independent, still known for producing one-of-one art for the most part. So what we saw here, what I'm showing here is known origin. Early on, we started seeing spurts after they launched. That there was a lot of activity, and edition activity has really gone in spurts. More recently, we've seen open editions become quite popular. Manifold has had a number of those mints, and we can see that it's really gained a lot of attention from collectors that previously were maybe into PFPs. These have the added benefit of having some interactivity to them. Often artists are experimenting with burn mechanisms with them, and it really keeps collectors interested in a different way than we've seen in the past with PFP projects. So generative art is, as I put it on the chart, it was one more rung closer to one-of-one art, and the reason I say that is because it's often thought of as one of X, and X being the size of the collection. If there's 1,000 pieces in the collection, each one of those pieces will be unique, but they're clearly part of that same collection. They go together. There's something unifying about them. So there's still something to the PFP idea of maybe the rarity or having one of the best pieces, and there's some group collection mentality to that, of trying to have one of the best pieces, but it's still getting a little bit closer to unique pieces. We saw some absolutely enormous sales back in the summer of 2021. Outside of that, we actually have seen relatively sustained interest in generative art in the 20 to 30 million per month on the secondary market, with 3 to 5 million typically in mint sales each month. Some of those absurd sales were probably due to some 3AC overbuying at the time, so I think we have to take that with a bit of a grain of salt. And now getting into one-of-one art sales, this has been much more inconsistent versus the other categories. It's been slower for people to catch on to. You don't get the same group buying, the same mint, the same reveals, the same sort of mechanisms that are often found in PFP collections, and there's an adjustment for collectors. As we can see, there have been some very high sales, and at the same time, it's very much aberrational at this point. However, we are seeing sustained interest here in Foundation specifically. We're seeing more and more mints on that platform. Super Rare had, I did group the Rare Pass in there. It's certainly debatable whether that is a one-of-one. Probably should have separated that one out. The idea here was that it was looking at least it was the Super Rare site. I would say that those are much more edition works, and this is where I'm saying that there's a lot of crossover in between these categories. So one other feature that I want to talk about was royalties. This has been a hotly debated topic just in NFTs in general. So the chart on the lower left is showing the average royalty fee, and you can see that it has come down significantly. There's a lot of projects just completely dropping royalties. I believe DGods just announced they were dropping royalties, and that's happening a lot more on PFP projects. What we are seeing is that Super Rare and Foundation are still paying the highest royalty rates, and we're still seeing that art platforms are honoring royalty rates. Artblocks has talked about their new secondary trading platform. Well, they will still honor royalty rates as well, and I find that to be a very encouraging thing for the longevity of art in this marketplace, or in the NFT world. There has to be something coming back to artists, and that was one of the things that certainly attracted me to the concept of NFT art when I first got into it, and I'd like to see that these marketplaces are actually doing that and are making something sustainable for them. So that is my talk today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me outside.